Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Every Day is Friday. I'm excited to welcome Sam to the podcast. Sam is an author of How to Win in Modern Wellness, and he's also the host of a podcast, A Healthy Point of View, where he talks about health, fitness, and wellness, and business. Sam is a former paramedic and firefighter. Also, you might have seen him on Good Morning America. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Hey, Matthew, it's a pleasure, man. Excited to be here.
Yeah, let's have some fun. I got a lot of great questions lined up, and before we dive in too much, make sure you subscribe, and so you never miss an episode. Let's get into it. For the listeners who may not be familiar with your line of work yet, can you give us a quick rundown of who you are and what you do?
Sam Tejada, Dominican kid who grew up, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and just making things happen when it comes to health and wellness. So I'm a retired fireman, in short. And the reason why I'm a retired fireman, most people say, well, you're too young to be retired, is that I was living my passion, trying to have the most rewarding job possible. And truthfully, the fire department was not the most rewarding job. About 90% of the 911 calls that we would run as a firefighter paramedic made me a product to the broken medical system. So that's why I said, you know what? We got to change this. My God-given purpose is really to help people in the time of need. So I want to take more of that proactive, preventative approach to help people with their health and wellness. And then that's where I started LiquiVida about 6 years into the fire department. And I milked it, about another 6 years of doing both my full-time business and then also working full-time in the fire department. And it got to a point where LiquiVida grew to a certain level where I said, okay, I need to focus on this. This is what my God-given purpose is. And that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what inspired you to start LiquiVida?
Yeah, so it really was at the fire department, man. Most firefighters, especially here in South Florida, we work 24 hours on and we're off for 48 hours. So firefighters typically have some kind of side hustle on their days off to supplement their income. Some guys have landscaping businesses, pressure cleaning. Some people work in the hospital. I decided to work with a doctor. His name was Dr. Robert Willix. He was my mentor in the biohacking functional medicine space. And he was the chief medical officer of a company called Cenogenics. So Cenogenics, they were pioneers in the alternative medicine space. Their whole approach to medicine was just completely different, right? It was not reactive, it was proactive. And what do I mean by that? So reactive is the reactive system that we live in, where doctors wait until you get sick to then try to make you better. So what Dr. Willix did was working with a lot of high-profile individuals from all over the world. And what he did is he did a lot of these comprehensive diagnostics, right? The comprehensive lab analysis, full body scans, to see if anything's out of optimal ranges, and then bring those levels within optimal ranges so people can actually live a very optimal life and be able to perform at their peak. So understanding that and doing that on my days off from the fire department and seeing a lot of people just really get well, right, to living their best life health-wise, I started seeing two different ends of the spectrum. I saw what I was getting at the fire department, where when you work at the fire department, you're part of a municipality, right? And in that municipality, that community, people get to know me as the fireman, and vice versa. I get to know the residents that are part of the community. So when you get that 911 call, let's say someone having shortness of breath, chest pain, or any kind of other medical emergency, you get that initial call, and then when they call you again 6 months down the line, you also respond and take them to the hospital with a quote-unquote experts are at, right? The doctors. And what I ended up seeing with hundreds, if not thousands of people is that 6 months and then the next 6 months became to calling 911 every other month to then every single month, then every other week, then, every week, then every other day, then every single day until they either died or got chronically sick or they were bedridden. And, some of this stuff happened very quickly within 6 months. Other people, 2, 3, 4 years, but I just saw it so frequently where I said, our medical system's broken, right? People are going to the hospital, they're getting prescribed all these medications, they're seeing multiple doctors that are not communicating with each other, and their health is just circling down the drain. And that's why I said, you know what? There's way too many deep pockets involved in this. There's a lot of corruption. I'm not going to be able to succeed even if I tried while working at the fire department. And then that's why I decided just to go on the other side and focus on functional medicine and preventative health.
For the listener who may not be familiar with LiquiVida, what is your main focus?
So ours is optimizing health, right? We have wellness centers. Some people consider it like a longevity center. So our focus is we have 5 different divisions, and this is what we call the VITA journey, We put people through the VITA journey, which consists of our wellness side. So our wellness side, we do everything from the comprehensive diagnostics, everything from a DEXA scan for body composition analysis. We do a VO2 max where you're on a bike going through strenuous exercise. You have a mask over your face where we're looking at cardiovascular health. We're looking at pulmonary health. We're looking at cellular health. We also do the comprehensive blood analysis where we're looking not at your just typical stuff that your general practitioner looks at. We're looking at very, very deep stuff inside of your body, micronutrients deficiencies, vitamins, minerals, amino acids that you might be deficient in that your body utilizes to function on a day-to-day basis. We're looking at inflammation markers, right? You see if you have any kind of things that are triggering inflammation in your body. We're looking at autoimmune issues, potential autoimmune diseases that are being triggered and are possibly taking over your health, and that's why you're feeling fatigue or your immune system's low. We're looking at other things like toxins, right? We live in such a toxic world where we have these ultra-processed foods, we have toxins in the environment, which these things cause a lot of issues. It really is the root cause of disease formation. So what we're doing is we're doing what we call is look under the hood through this division, through all the different diagnostics, but then also we have the treatments that fall under this wellness division for like hormone optimization, doing the IV drips where you get those vitamins, minerals, amino acids directly into the bloodstream where it bypasses the digestive route and also the liver where you can get better absorption. Then we have our other division, which is our medical weight loss division. So as we know, here in the United States, obesity is a huge, huge problem, right? So people are always looking for different things to be able to lose weight. We do it on a medical standpoint. So it's medically supervised. We use different peptides. We use nutrition and then also exercise. Our third division is our regenerative medicine division, where we work with people who have certain type of pains throughout their bodies. A lot of athletes or people that had some kind of injury. So we utilize certain stem cell derived products like exosomes. Sometimes we use peptides to help regenerate that tissue. Then we have our medical aesthetics division, which we do things that people are familiar with, like Botox and some of the dermal fillers for loss of volume. And then we have our last division, our sexual health division, for both males and females. So we help guys that have a decreased libido, which is low sex drive, the thought of sex. We also help guys with erectile dysfunction, where it's a blood flow issue. And then we help women who potentially have prolapsed uterus, pelvic floor issues, endometriosis, urinary incontinence, postpartum. And those are things that we put people through those 5 divisions. They become not just our sweet spot customer on a business standpoint, but it's a person who lives through the VITA journey and is going to have the most optimal health.
That can be life-changing for some people.
Absolutely.
Now, why did you decide to write your book? I mean, How to Win in Modern Wellness.
So the book was really to empower people to understand what is out there besides just your traditional medicine, right? You know, we look at conventional medicine, which is that reactive healthcare system. It's more of sick care. So what I did is when I first got into the industry, our industry was interesting enough, man. It was a cutthroat mentality with the competition. Everybody was chanting the exact same thing. Hey, let's change the course of medicine. You know, let's take that proactive approach to people's healthcare. But then we're against each other. And, you know, you go back in history, and in history, man, you would always hear divide and conquer. So if we want to win, we can't be divided. So what I decided to do from the beginning, I says, you know what? I'm not going to go this cutthroat mentality. I'm going to start building some strong relationships with my competitors. And that's what I did. So if you see the cover of the book, what I have is 17 different faces. They're all my competitors, CEOs and doctors of some of the top companies in the alternative medicine space. And what I did, I gave them all a chapter in the book, and we're all talking about how we're winning together in this world of modern wellness.
I mean, that sounds like something people could really learn from. That sounds great.
Thank you.
Now, I'm a fan of your podcast, by the way, and now you've said you never wake up to our alarm clock again. Why is that?
I don't, man. And I tell you, when I worked at the fire department, you'll see my fire department gear back here. That was actually the last 2 years. Every 10 years, we get a whole new set of gear. So this one I had for 2 years. The one that I had for 10 years is in my bar room at home. But working in the fire department, you would wake up to these alarms in the middle of the night because remember, we work 24-hour shifts. So, you know, one thing that I noticed, it was just like the way my body felt. And if there's a description or a feeling of feeling like you're really killing yourself slowly, was waking up to that alarm in the middle of the night. You know, when you're sleeping, you're at a very low heart rate. You're rested, right? And when you wake up to an alarm where it automatically like triggers that response that elevates your heart rate. Not healthy. And I told myself after I left the fire department, I says, you know what? I'm going to allow my body to wake up when it needs to wake up. My body's going to tell me when it's time to wake up. And I don't want to wake up to anything else. And since I started doing that, and this was 6 years ago that I retired from the fire department at the age of 32, so I'm 38 now. I don't have any midday crash. I don't need 2 cups of coffee. I have my cup of coffee in the morning. I do my bulletproof coffee with the MCT oils and stuff for cognitive health. But I don't have a midday crash. I feel energetic. I feel fantastic. I sleep about 4.5 to 5 hours a day. I go to sleep when my body tells me to go to sleep, and I wake up when my body tells me to wake up. So I like to have the windows open and try to get some of that natural sunlight first thing in the morning, where you get a little bit of that initial blue light that stimulates cortisol production, which is that stress hormone to get your body going. And for me, it's worked, man. And I tell people, it's like, if you haven't done it, do it. You know, do it, try it out, and you'll see how great your body will feel.
Yeah, Sam, why is good sleep so important for the body to heal and feel good?
So sleeping is where you recover. And when you talk about your powerhouse cells inside of your body that produce ATP, which is energy, right? It's your mitochondrial cells. And really, when you sleep is a time where that has the ability to recover, right? So you can perform at your peak the next day. Sleeping, good sleep is going to help you regulate mental health, right? Anxiety, depression is part of it. It's going to help you regulate your hormones. It's going to help you regulate your immune system. It's also going to help with muscle recovery if you're a person who likes to live an active lifestyle, works out, or does things outside, mountain bike, kayaking. So sleeping is where your body's recovering. It's probably, to me, it's part of the top 3 things that you have to focus on with your health, which is sleep.
If you don't mind me asking, what are the other 2?
The other 2, and all of these things are free, right? Sleeping is free. The other thing is going to be nutrition, right? What you put into your body. What you put into your body and how you fuel your body is what you're going to have. That input of what you put into your body is what's going to give you the proper output that you're looking for. And then the third one is movement. Movement, I don't like to use the word exercise, but we are going to go and utilize it today. But movement is moving your body, exercising, right? Doing some strength training. All of that stuff is important. That is actually one of the key components of longevity, is moving your body.
Yeah, Sam, I know so many people that have problems sleeping and just trying to go to sleep. What are some of the natural ways people can fall asleep and stay asleep?
Well, one of the things at the top of the list that why people have trouble sleeping is that their mind just doesn't stop going, right? So you have to be able to relax the mind. You got to get those brain waves to go down and relax. So part of that, what I do guided meditation. I use a technology called Brain Tap. There's a very smart scientist behind it. He's a PhD, Dr. Patrick Porter. And the guided meditation, there's some headphones that you put on, and it basically provides certain type of frequencies throughout the moment that will help you wind that mind down. So meditation is at the top of the list. Breath work is very important. And then at night, one of the things that you want to make sure you do before you actually go to sleep is prepare yourself to go to sleep. Meaning don't eat too close to going to sleep. When you eat too close to going to sleep, your body has to digest that food. So part of that is you're going to have an elevated heart rate because your body's so focused on breaking that food down. So try to eat at least 2 hours before going to sleep, and then minimize any kind of blue light exposure. Blue light exposure is like any kind of screens, your TV screens, some of your fluorescent light bulbs inside of your house, also your cell phone. You know, one of the things that I do, I have this feature on my phone that I go ahead and click it 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then a red filter goes onto the phone, right? So that red filter here, hit it again 3 times, 1, 2, 3. So, and it goes off. So what I do late at night, I go ahead and turn on that red filter. And what that does, it minimizes that blue light if I have to be on the phone. Now, if you can just eliminate utilizing the device itself, that's even better. Sometimes you'll see biohackers wear these glasses that are red, red glasses, and that there also reduces and minimizes blue light up to 99%. So these are things that you could do to start calming your body down and prepare your body to sleep.
Yeah, those tips sound simple and really helpful.
Yeah, and that red filter, I have right on YouTube. If people want to actually learn how to establish it on their iPhone, I have a tutorial. It's like a couple minutes long I'm right on YouTube. You can find it if you search my name.
Now, why do you think breath work is so powerful?
So breath work helps you regulate that blood flow, right? It also helps regulate mental stress, right? So if you have a lot of stress going on, being able to breathe just allows you to take control of your overall health. You can control your blood pressure, you can control your circulation, you can control a lot of your thoughts, all through breath work.
And like I was saying before, I was watching your podcast, and you were saying by the time someone is like 28, their testosterone starts going down. Why is that?
Yeah, and you know, as a man, you know, you want to have that masculinity, which testosterone is that leading hormone for that. So as we age, just like anything else, things start to decrease. Testosterone is one of them. It starts to reduce about 2 to 3% around the age of 28. Interesting enough, the age number is actually becoming a lot less throughout the years because of a lot of the things we're exposed to. So, you know, there's certain things that you can do naturally to help stabilize your testosterone levels. And then eventually, depending on where your testosterone levels are at, you should consider hormone optimization.
What can people do to keep their testosterone levels healthy?
Exercise, nutrition are going to be at the top of the list. And then obviously supplementation. There's certain supplements that you can take that help stimulate natural testosterone. And then if those things are just not doing the job, you would do actual hormone optimization, which is going to be bioidentical hormones where you do it through either a cream, injection, or even a pill.
That could be a game changer for a lot of people out there.
Oh yeah, definitely can.
Now, this is a question from my dad, and he goes, why do you think people metabolism slow down when they get older?
Well, metabolism slows down. That's part of your metabolic health. So my recommendation, I'm all about data. So when it comes to your actual health, personalized to yourself, my recommendation is try to figure out what is slowing down that metabolism. So by doing the blood work and looking at certain deficiencies you might have, for example, doing a micronutrients test where you're looking at vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that your body utilizes to function as part of your metabolic health, there's certain metabolites that help upregulate metabolism, right? You have methionine, inositol, choline, B12, L-carnitine. These are all metabolites. So if you're deficient in any of those fives, it can potentially bring your metabolism down. If you're not moving your body, same thing. Metabolism is probably going to slow down. If you're not eating properly, same thing. Metabolism might slow down. So there's a lot of factors that we have to look at. Now, when we look at data, besides the blood work and the micronutrients test, there's also a test that's called the RMR, resting metabolic rate, where basically what we do, you're fasted overnight, and you're sitting in a chair for about 30 minutes, and you're breathing through a mask. And what we're looking at is how many calories you're burning at a rested state. So at that point, what I can do based off what your ultimate health goals are, with that data, I can customize the macros and micros that you have to intake on a day-to-day basis to get your metabolism to be where it needs to be.
No, that gives people a lot of hope that they can stay healthy
Absolutely.
and have a strong metabolism as they age.
Yep.
Sam, I got to ask you, do you believe in vitamins?
I do. Vitamins are extremely important. And you know, you could get a lot of these vitamins through a lot of the foods, but the thing is, a lot of our foods are nutrients dense, meaning that the soils that a lot of these fruits and vegetables are growing in, they don't have the nutrients in the soil. So supplementation in today's world is definitely critical for people to do.
What vitamins do you recommend?
It's really got to be personalized to the individual. Now, if I say, because I don't like to supplement just to supplement. I like to supplement based off of what your body truly needs. So I'm a big proponent of making sure people do blood work to see exactly what their body needs. But I think everyone should definitely, there should be certain vitamins that everyone should take, right? Vitamin C is extremely important. A B complex that has several different B vitamins is important. Magnesium is a vitamin that everybody should take. It helps with digestion, helps regulate blood pressure, helps, you know, your gut health, your overall gut health, helps mental focus, mental clarity as well. And then there's other vitamins that are very helpful as well too, like NAD, NR, which is a precursor to NAD for mental health, mental clarity, mental focus. You know, those things are important as well too.
You know, it's crazy how small changes can make such a big difference.
They can. They really can.
I have another question from a guest, and it's about birth control. What are some of the risks of birth control that people might not know about?
Man, oh man, that birth control, I tell you, that thing is messing some people up. And what I mean by messing some people up, You're talking about causing infertility issues where, girls after X amount of years being on birth control, they have a lots of issue conceiving with their partners, where right now IVF, the in vitro stuff, is at its ultimate high. Infertility is at its ultimate high. And a lot of this stuff is because people, these young girls at the age of 14, 15 years old are being put on birth control. It's not a natural thing. What we're doing is we're blocking people's natural hormones just so they can't conceive while they're in high school or middle school. To me, it doesn't make sense. You're putting so much other stress and effect onto this person's body. And I've met so many women that have had tremendous issues. And then at the point in time, they decide to actually get off the birth control. It takes about 5 years to get their hormones back regulated and back stable. And, 5 years of having imbalanced hormones, people don't feel good. They feel like crap. So it is a long process to get yourself back into that homeostasis where everything's balanced. I would really, if there's any parents out there that are listening to this, or even anyone who is on birth control, I would really reconsider before actually getting on the birth control. And I know this is another thing, Matthew. People say, well, I have the worst cramps, throughout my menstrual cycle. There's other remedies, right? There's other things you can do naturally to help throughout that process. The birth control, you got to look at risk versus benefit. And in all reality, the risk is higher than the benefit of being on the birth control.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people out there struggle with that. And I've heard of people, women taking it for acne reasons and, cramps and stuff like that. And you just gotta understand, do your own research on the medicine and the stuff you're taking.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sam, I really want to ask you, what are the top 3 tips to keep your brain healthy?
Brain health, man, that's my thing. So I jam on the brain health part. That's like my personal favorite in the world of biohacking. So keeping your brain sharp. We talked about meditation earlier. Meditation is definitely important. But if I go on the track of supplementation, right? Supplementation, I do this nasal spray every single morning. It's called Synapsins. So the Synapsin nasal spray, it's all natural, and it has a few different ingredients in it. It has RG3, which is the potent extract of ginseng, pharmaceutical grade. It also has NR, which is the precursor to NAD, so it opens up the pathways. And then it also has methyl B12, which is the methylated version of B12. Every morning when I do this, and I've been doing it for about 6+ years, everything becomes high definition. I hear better, see better, and speak better. Everything's just like on point, and it's all natural. Another thing that I do is my bulletproof recipe coffee, where basically what I do is in my coffee in the morning, I put the bulletproof MCT oil that's with the C8 molecule. It's called the brain octane oil. So those lipids of the MCT oil get your brain firing off. It gives you better mental focus and clarity. Also, we talked about meditation. That's important. NAD, which NAD is, they consider like the brain reboot. A lot of hedge fund guys and a lot of people on Wall Street, they do the NAD. They love it. You can just Google about NAD and you'll see tons of articles of how people feel. After you read all those articles, you will be motivated to try it. And then you have NMN. So there's a product made by Novos Labs. Novos has a lot of science behind their product, and they are experts behind the NMN product, and that's also something that helps upregulate NAD levels in the brain and helps with mental clarity, mental focus, overall brain health.
Yeah, that's a game changer for brain health.
It is. It really is.
Now, what's some of the best IV treatments for energy?
So for energy, when it comes to IV treatments, the IVs that typically have the mixture of different nutrients, like your different B vitamins, the B vitamins help a lot boost up energy levels. And the type of energy you get, it's not like grabbing one of those energy drinks at the gas station, right? That's what we call chemically induced energy. You don't want that. You want a good sense of liveliness. The best way I could put it is, it's a Saturday morning, beautiful, no clouds in the sky, you're at the beach, and you just feel, you feel fantastic. That's the type of energy you want. That type of energy is a natural energy, and the only way you get that is by making sure your body has all of the raw ingredients that it needs to perform. So, those raw ingredients are a lot of different nutrients, which are vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. So the IV drips will provide that.
Yeah, this sounds like something people might want to try.
I think they should. And listen, it doesn't have to be with LiquiVida. I'm a huge proponent of people just trying it. There's a lot of reputable companies out there that I partner up with as well. Find someone locally, a reputable IV clinic that has these different IV vitamin drips and try it out. You know, if you're lacking energy and you feel like you're dragging, again, first step is you should do the blood work, because if you're lacking energy, it might not be a micronutrients deficiency. It could be a hormone imbalance. It could be toxins in your body that are causing you to feel fatigue. So let's figure out what it is first. But if you do have a micronutrients deficiency, try the IV and you'll see a huge difference in your overall energy level.
Sam, what do you know about microplastics and how do they affect our health?
Oh man, you don't want to turn into a Barbie doll. That's one thing I'll tell you, right? So the microplastics, that's a toxin. It's a very, very bad toxin, right? And what happens with toxins, and not just microplastic, but we're talking about microplastics now, is the toxins, what toxins will do is actually stick to the lipid membranes of your cells in your body, right? And what it does, it basically sticks on that membrane of the gene that's responsible for something in your body. And I'll give you an example. Everyone in their body has what's called tumor suppressing genes, right? They're genes that should always be on. The expression of it should always be on, meaning that if a tumor starts to develop, it suppresses that tumor so it doesn't keep on growing. It's a tumor suppressing gene. Now, if certain toxins get on that gene and turn the expression off, what happens to a tumor if it starts growing in your body? There's nothing to suppress it because the gene expression is turned off because the toxin is stuck to it. So what ends up happening, that tumor will grow, become cancerous, and it'll potentially kill you, right? So same thing with all other types of diseases, autoimmune issues, all kinds of stuff, right? You have multiple genes in your body that are responsible for many different things, neurological things, the immune system, cancer, all of that stuff. So when it comes to these toxins, the number one thing that we have to do is try to figure out how we avoid them completely, as much as possible. Now, we live in a very toxic world. You know, it's going to be impossible to avoid them all completely. So you also have to understand what you put in your body that helps your body enhance the detox pathways. Meaning, how do we eliminate some of these toxins that do enter our body through our skin, through our nasal tracts, respiratory tract, or something that we're ingesting through foods. So that's where understanding antioxidants, different supplements, other type of treatments like ozone and EBO2 that help remove these toxins from the body are important.
What can we do to avoid eating and or drinking microplastics?
Well, as you see here, this bottle of water that I have, it's not plastic, it's glass. So I would avoid drinking out of plastic water bottles completely. I would avoid having any plastic food containers at home. Try to have it all in glass. Your cooking ware, same thing, utilize cooking ware that's toxic free. There's a lot of different reputable companies out there when it comes to that. And, anything that you're exposed to, even some of the clothes that you wear, you have to make sure that the clothes you're wearing, because your body will absorb some of these things, make sure that it's primarily cotton. There's other things that are made out of bamboo. Things that are more natural when it comes to clothing, so your body's not absorbing some of these chemicals and these other toxic things like plastic.
Yeah, that's easy advice people can use right away.
Yeah, I have a dear friend of mine. She's big into the biohacking space. Her name is Sandy Martin, and she just actually wrote a book, and it's called Biohacking Starts With No. Because when people want to get into health and wellness and biohacking, they're always thinking about the different technologies and devices they can buy and all the supplements they can buy. And really the first step costs you nothing. It's really getting the base knowledge of the things you need to stay away from, right? The things you need to just say no. Drinking out of plastic, say no to that. That's something that you got to stay away from. Ultra-processed foods, a lot of the food dyes that are going into our foods, say no to it. Stay away from it. The seed oil, stay away from it. It's rancid. It's poisonous to your body. It's carcinogenic. So there's a lot of things that you can start doing for your health by just saying no.
Especially when that water bottle is sitting in the sun, it just breaking down that microplastics and you're drinking it.
Oh, that's the worst. When it sits in the sun. And the thing is some people, I never leave it out in the sun. Well, where were those bottles of water before you purchased them? It could have been in the back of some kind of semi-truck for hours throughout the summer traveling. At the gas station, sometimes they just leave these packs of waters out up front. Sun's beaming at it all day. So I'd just stay away from it. Stay away from it completely.
As we're talking about water, why is it so important to stay hydrated?
Well, hydration is key. Your body's made up of 60% water. It is a critical thing for our body to have. So hydration, it helps, bring nutrients to the cells. Hydration overall allows your body to perform in certain ways. If you're not hydrated enough, you'll even have mental fog, mental clarity issues. So hydration is definitely extremely important. Hydrating yourself properly with the right kind of water. I like spring water. One of the things that I recently started doing is hydrogen water that has its own set of benefits. Those are things that you could do a little bit of research on and really further enhance your knowledge on the different type of waters that are out there.
What are some of the benefits from hydrogen water?
So with hydrogen water, number one thing that I've learned about hydrogen water, it really helps fix the gut, right? They say your gut is your number one brain. And when you have a gut that's performing properly, you get a lot of other benefits like boost up immune system, absorbing nutrients out of foods and supplements a lot better. And then, other things like helping with like autoimmune issues. Depending if you have any kind of chronic illnesses that you're dealing with, hydrogen water is very beneficial for that as well too, like patients with cancer or autoimmune diseases and whatnot. But overall, hydrogen will help with your overall performance. Like if you're an athlete, a lot of athletes are doing hydrogen baths where the hydrogen is absorbed through the skin. Also, some people are doing the hydrogen water inhaled through a nasal cannula where it's being diffused directly into the bloodstream and getting that hydrogen gas directly into the bloodstream. And then obviously the hydrogen water, which there's a company out there that's one of the global leaders. I just interviewed him on the podcast. Podcast hasn't released yet, but it's called Echo. Dr. Paul, who's a very smart scientist behind hydrogen water. He's the scientist in manufacturer of these technologies.
I have to ask you, what do you think about fasting?
I think people should do fasting. It definitely allows your body to reset and allows your stomach to reset. If you're a person who believes in Christ and is someone who's biblical, right? It is a biblical thing as well too. So, but fasting overall, we're not made as mammals, we're not made to be eating every 2 to 3 hours. You're not supposed to be doing that. Early on, in my early 20s, I used to do bodybuilding, and I had to eat every 2 hours. And I really learned that wasn't the right thing to be doing, right? So when you fast, it really allows that stomach, your gut, to completely reset itself. Instead of always having something where it's consistently working nonstop and you're not letting it rest. Just like the rest of your body. You got to let your mind rest. You got to let your legs rest. You got to let things rest. So same thing with your gut, your stomach. Fasting helps with that tremendously. It helps bring your gut flora back to where it needs to be. Fasting is something that I do frequently. I do intermittent fasting, so I'll fast about 16 to 18 hours per day.
That's an interesting take. I appreciate you sharing that. Now, what's one thing you wish more people knew about health and wellness?
Well, the most important part is people understanding that they're in complete control of their health. Don't let anyone else tell you and dictate what your health needs to be. Get educated enough to understand your health. Data is important. I wear my Oura ring wherever I go, right? I'm looking at my HRV, my oxygen saturation, circulation. There's a lot of different tools. There's the Fitbit, there's the Whoop, Apple Watch. There's a lot of different technologies for you to really start understanding your own personal health data. You can do blood work. There's other types of diagnostics like full body composition analysis to see how much fat, lean mass, visceral fat that your body actually has. But be in control of your health. Don't let these bigger governing bodies, some of them that are completely corrupt, tell you what you need to do for your health. Because I could tell you based off of history and what has happened, fortunately right now, we have an administration that has a big movement called Make America Healthy Again. That's really changing the trajectory of people's health, changing the course of medicine as well. And really, ultimately, you're in control of your health. If you have enough knowledge to understand what's good for you and what's not good for you and how to supplement and do things for your overall health, you're going to know more about your body than any doctor that's out there is going to know about your body.
That's very good advice, Sam. And Sam, if you could go back and give your younger self, one piece of health advice, what would it be?
That's a good question. If I can go back and give myself some health advice. Man, if I could go way back, right, from when I was a kid. Listen, I was born in Dominican Republic, in a third world country, right? And some of the things that I was fed as a kid from my parents, and no blame on my parents because they just didn't know any different. but a lot of the foods that we were eating were not the healthiest foods, right? Eating a big bowl of rice is not healthy. Too many carbs, right? Eating a big bowl of pasta, not healthy. A lot of the meats and poultry we would eat were probably the worst parts of the chicken. You know, so if I just knew a little bit better of what was healthier, granted, coming from Dominican Republic, a lot of the foods were farm raised. They were organic, you know, not tampered with, you know, injecting hormones and putting to cages and stuff. So I think it was a bit healthier than what a lot of people experience here in the U.S. at a young age. But if I just knew a little bit more of nutrition, it would have probably made my life a little bit easier.
That's great because you've learned from all your experiences.
Absolutely.
Now, what's a health myth that you've heard hear all the time that you wish would just go away?
Health myth. You know, probably one of the biggest myths would be, man, you know, you got me on that one. I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't have a health myth that people put out there, you know. And if it is a myth, I typically would debunk it, you know, because obviously my expertise in the health and wellness field. But I think, you know, if I had to give you an answer right now on a health myth, it's our conventional medical system. You know, there is science through a lot of the stuff. Don't get me wrong, right? If you cut your arm right now, I'm not going to tell you, hey, sprinkle some nutrients and some vegetables on it. I'm going to tell you, go to the ER and go get it sewed up by an ER or doctor. But there's a lot of things that are done in conventional medicine that are just not the right things that should be done, you know? So there's a lot of things there that I would say it's a myth. You know, you have to do your own research and understand that there's other alternatives that might give you better results. You're going to yield a heck of a lot better results from it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there, and I recommend everyone do their own research. I just recently found out that your body just soaks up everything you put on your skin. I mean, you put sunscreen, you put lotion, you put anything on your skin, it does. It
does. It's the largest organ in your body. Right. And when it comes to anything, you know, listen, you know, family members that potentially might have chest pain or something, they get the nitroglycerin patches. You know, that medication is being absorbed directly into the skin and it's going into your cellular system. So anything that goes on your skin is being absorbed. So if you're utilizing any cosmetic products, lotions, right now the sunscreen has been a huge thing, right? People are looking at the history and the people with the deep pockets behind the sunscreen business. And one of the largest donors to cancer are the sunscreen companies, or should I say the largest owners of a lot of the cancer drugs are the companies that own the sunscreen companies. So you start to think about that, where right now what's being said is that the sunscreen itself is causing cancer. It's not even the sun, not the natural sun that's causing the cancer, it's the sunscreen. So these are certain things that you have to take in consideration when you start putting it on your skin.
Everyone out there, do your research on everything that you're taking and everything that you're putting on your body. And all right, this is the time of the show. I want to transition to the Friday mindset part of the show. I want to dig into your journey, your mindset, and the moments that shaped you. Sam, what has been the best piece of advice you've ever received?
You know, in business itself, best piece of advice was, man, when I first started my company, I was always in the business. I was working it. I was connecting, meeting with people, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But when you want to scale and you want to go big, you got to work on the business, not in the business. And when I switched that mindset and put people to do what I was doing, and it allowed me to really scale. And that's what scalability is all about, is working on the business, not in the business.
That's a great takeaway. Now, what's one truth about life you wish more people understood?
You got to believe in the higher power. There is a God. Everybody, regardless of what your religious belief is, you have to have some kind of spiritual belief, and you do have to believe that there's a higher power. If you're living with that sense of emptiness, this is why. You're never alone. The higher power is always with you. So if anyone out here is listening and they question it, at the end of the day, there's certain things on this planet that we cannot explain. And that's because there is a God who's in control and has that complete control.
That's a great takeaway. I mean, what you are is God's gift to you, and what you do with it is your gift to God.
That's the truth, man. And don't forget, your body's the temple of God because God lives within you. So there's many sins that you can do out there, but there's only one sin that's within, and that's your body. Right? And it's when you do bad things to your body with a lot of these different vices that are out there, remember, it's the temple of God. God lives within you. So do you really want to sin so deep within your body versus these other sins? And I'm not saying the other sins are good whatsoever at all, but that one sin, when you don't take care of your body, you're not just hurting you, but you're also hurting God who's within you.
I love that takeaway. Your body is the temple. What is something significant from your childhood that shaped you into who you are today?
My father, my father was full of discipline, He put that on us, his 4 kids. My dad was very pro-health growing up. He did not let my mom buy, cereal with the food dyes and all that other stuff. My dad was really big into martial arts. He had us in a lot of different extracurricular activities, playing every kind of sport you can think of, swimming, martial arts, baseball, football. And we had a full-blown gym inside of our house in the basement. My dad taught me how to work out. So those things really shaped me to who I became as an adult. That type of discipline, when you have the ability to be disciplined with your body and your health, you have the ability to accomplish anything in life. And I guarantee you, at the point in time that you can be consistently disciplined with your health and your body, there is nothing that you cannot overcome.
Sam, with that being said, what kind of legacy are you going to leave?
So my legacy for the day that I pass on is really, I was that person, number one, that changed the course of medicine, who was part of the movement. Number 2, a person who cared for the people, right? The people that worked for me, the people of the community. And then number 3, the person who was able to actually put themselves in a position, not for a financial gain, but to really enhance people health-wise and business-wise. Meaning, part of my legacy is my ultimate goal is to get into legislation, and really put myself in a position to change a lot of the legislation that's out there that's very antiquated, and really do things not just for us now, but for the future, for our future population, for our future kids, grandkids, etc.
I'm looking forward to that. I mean, the next generations.
Absolutely.
What has been the biggest driving factor for success in your career?
Biggest driving factor is you have to have that fire within you, man. And sometimes people try to extinguish that fire. So biggest motivating factor is my God-given purpose. If you have God within you and you're nourishing what God has within you, keep that fire going, and it just will never get extinguished. It'll never stop.
The show is called Every Day is Friday, and Friday has a special energy, whether it's freedom, excitement, or just feeling of accomplishment after a long week. I want to hear from you. What does Friday mean to you, Sam?
So Friday, when I hear Friday, I feel people vibrating at a very high frequency, because most people are excited. They're probably going to go to happy hour, finally go out to dinner with family and kids. Weekends coming, people are going to be hanging out at the beach, doing a lot of fun stuff with their families. So Friday is a day of tons of high frequency. It's people just vibrating at this high frequency, which, if anyone knows who I am, I'm the kind of guy who I want to surround myself with people that vibrate at that high frequency. Because when you actually surround yourself by other people that vibrate at a high frequency, you're going to absorb their frequency, and it's just going to lift you up even more.
Every Day is Friday is about bringing that energy into everyday life. And Sam, this is your chance to leave the listeners with something powerful. Is there anything else you want to share?
Yeah, your health is extremely important. You hear people always say health is wealth. It's a wealth that, I always tell people, if your health was a currency, it's a currency that you would not trade on any stock market, because it's one of those things that you just need to have. Without your health, you can't do anything. You can't work. You can't have that fire behind you. So make your health a priority. Don't wait until later where something actually makes you wake up to then start taking care of your health. Be proactive about it. Your health is everything. I can't put enough emphasis on that.
And all your information will be in the description down below, but I want to make sure that people know where to find you. Where can they follow and support your work?
Yeah, so if you want to find more information on me, you can just Google Sam Tejada. I do have my personal website, samtejada.com. Our website for the company is LiquiVida.com. And I'm very active on social media. You can find me on Instagram. That's Sammy, SAMMY _, and then my last name, Tejada, TEJADA. And you'll see all of the cool stuff. And I'm always posting every single day just to keep people informed.
Maybe one day I'll get to the same status as you and just say, Google me.
Yeah, man. Personal brand's important, especially when you're on a movement, on a mission. You want to make sure people get to know who you are.
And I know the listeners got a lot of value out of this, and it's been an awesome conversation. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for sharing your stories and experiences.
It's been a pleasure, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, and to the listeners, stay tuned for more amazing stories on Every Day is Friday. If you enjoyed this, make sure to follow, share, and keep that Every Day is Friday mindset going. Stay inspired and make every day feel like Friday. Until next time.